it just happened to be one day that I asked him out to Subway, had no clue I was going to pay for it. And we just sat down and I asked him, his name was Will, how can I be of value to you in your business? And I saw he was kind of like, I don't have anything to pay you. I said, here's the kicker. You don't have to pay me anything. So I just happened to be in that right moment in time where this person was able to take me under their wing because they were older. On you, the person on the other end, is you may have to speak with multiple individuals in order to find one that's a fit.
This is the Multifamily Journey Podcast, show 30.
You're listening to the Multifamily Journey Podcast. In this show, you'll hear industry experts share tips of success and failure from their real estate investing journeys. You'll get a transparent look behind the curtain while you learn to fulfill the lifestyle you want to live and achieve your wealth goals. Get ready for the journey to financial freedom through investing in multifamily real estate. Here's your host, Blake Dailey.
Hey, what's up, multifamily journey men and women? This is your host, Blake Dailey, back for another awesome episode. This is one that I've honestly been looking forward to for a long time now. I got Sterling White on the show today, and he is one of the guys that I listened to early on in my investing career, and I saw his journey as something that was actionable and that I could go out and achieve. And he's also from Indiana. Maybe that's what it is. We had that connection. I thought if this guy could do it from similar circumstances, then I might be able to do it too. So hopefully he inspires that same inspiration to you guys with this show. And I think it's a really good one because not only do we talk about like where he came from and where he got to by just this apprenticeship model, going after and getting it through a mentor, just providing whatever value he could to, in exchange, get access to deals and experience and have somebody to lean on to get the ball rolling for him. So really cool way that he got started. And then from there, he built up 150 plus single family homes, like saw massive growth. But through that, then realized that like, man, like these single family homes are a lot to manage. There's a lot to it. Multifamily just has that efficiency that made a lot more sense to him. And he talks about that, why he made the pivot. And then what I think was, for me, like the coolest part of this episode was how he got started with finding off-market deals for multifamily. He got his first multifamily deal off-market by cold calling and talked about how he finds sellers, what he says on the phone, and his approach to finding off-market deals. Because this is back at a time in 2016, he said, when they're just, brokers are the ones that control multifamily deals usually. And there just wasn't anything that he saw. So he took it into his own hands. And guess what? That's where we're at right now in the market. Like it is hard to find deals. So do what others won't or what they can or they don't know how to and generate your own leads. So very timely episode. And before we get into that, I think it's been a couple of weeks now since the announcement, but the Multifamily Journey Podcast made it in the top 40 of multifamily podcasts to listen to for this year, for 2021. So just wanted to extend my thanks to all the listeners, all the people who have left ratings and reviews and helped the show get noticed. And then to all the guests. I mean, this has been such an awesome journey and where we came from since when I started last year. Ton of growth. I feel like I can finally talk and hold a conversation normally now. So yeah, just want to say thank you. And please continue to leave those ratings and reviews. Let's get this show to the top 20 or even higher and just keep that progress rolling. So I don't have anything else. And with that, let's get into the show. All right, Sterling, welcome to the show. It's good to have you here on the Multifamily Journey Podcast.
All right, everyone who is listening in on this, or you may be visually watching it, get your popcorn ready, strap yourselves in because we're going to take you along for a ride.
I love it, man. Starting this thing off hot and heavy. And I think this is the first time too that we got two native Indiana guys on the podcast, like grew up an hour away from each other. You're from Indy and I'm from a small town that's like hardly on maps.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very, very small, but small world for sure.
It is. Well, awesome, man. How about you just give people a little bit about yourself and how you got started in real estate? I was telling you beforehand, like you were one of the early multifamily guys I came across, listening to podcasts and stuff. So that story resonated with me. So excited to share it today.
Yeah, so I'll give everyone the Cliff Note or Spark Note version on my journey. So born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana, not so good parts of the city where you wouldn't want to walk your dog at night or even during the day. And a single mother, fraternal twin brother, and grew up in the roughest parts of the city. And I remember there was one instance that both my brother and I We were sitting down, we were about 5 or 6 years old, eating dinner, cut up hot dogs and ramen noodles, something along those lines. And as soon as we go upstairs, a bullet comes right through the back patio where we were both sitting. So I may not be here, he may not be here, but ended up deciding not to be a product of that environment. And the whole entrepreneurship spirit came into existence for me because I had to figure out a way to earn money because we were just getting by on food stamps and other government assistance. So my first product was Kool-Aid, then Pokemon cards. And fast forward, how I got in real estate was in 2009 on the construction side, getting my hands dirty. Shortly after that, shifted to investing, where I bought my very first deal, no money out of pocket. Actually had negative funds. I actually owed the bank money. So yeah, that's how I got my foot in the door. And then scaled to 150 single families. And then in 2017, transitioned to multifamily and scale portfolio that closer to about 500 units. So that's the compacted version for everyone. And
that's awesome. Yeah. There's a ton of good stuff in there to break out. We'll definitely jump in there. But I mean, just going back to the beginning, I think where you started from is super inspiring, super awesome because, just talking about your early environment there, like if you think of, who's going to be a super successful entrepreneur, like you overcame the odds. So that's awesome. And then had no experience, had negative money in the bank. And so many people that, that I talk to, and you probably do the same thing. It's like, how do we get started? We don't have money. You made it happen. So let's dive in there. Like, how did you get into this first deal? No money out of pocket.
Yeah, I would say the universe in a way. And Blake, I would say for those who use that excuse is one, there's two approaches that you could take. You can use an excuse and you can rely on that excuse, or you can figure out a way around it. And you either find a way or you find an excuse. And so for myself is that one, I was in construction, but I saw the wealthy and the rich did not become where they were due to getting their hands dirty. I was a laborer. I was mixing the mortar and then giving it to the bricklayers. Huge grind for sure. And I knew that wasn't for me, but I wanted to be in real estate. So I was actually training for a world record for the world's fastest fireman carry mile. That's a whole nother conversation in itself. But
I was going to say, it sounds like a unique story there.
Yeah. And ended up, that's that CrossFit gym that I was working out at. And I was bartering my way at that gym because I had no money. So I cleaned around it, but ended up forming this relationship with this individual that ended up being my mentor. And I didn't even anticipate on that. And it came down to, I started working for them for completely free in their company. And they had apartments, so multifamily, and they were looking to diversify to single family. Normally it's single family to multifamily, but that was the value exchange. They had the money, didn't have the time. I had the time, but didn't have the money. Brought them the deal. They funded the purchase price and rehab and threw me into the fire. Sterling, go figure everything else out.
That's awesome, man. So basically started out as like the apprentice to the blacksmith. It's like, hey, hold this hot fired piece of metal. We're gonna keep hitting it until it turns into an awesome investment. So that's really cool. And I think I've heard about that, like talked about in other podcasts. Like I know they've talked about it on the Bigger Pockets podcast, like the apprenticeship model. It's like lost its allure over the years, or over like the last 100 years since the Industrial Revolution. But like that's how people used to start out and earn a wage and like learn the craft. And you jumped in right into it that way. And my story was pretty similar. Like just found partners and they needed somebody to run and do errands and knock on doors and put door hangers and cold call. And I was like, give me a phone, like give me these things. I'm going to go
I got it.
Break off doorknobs, put these door hangers on. So like anything I can do to get a deal and like show value. So I love that that's how you got your start. So,
and I think as well, Blake, is the mentality of some people nowadays, I wouldn't say majority, I don't want to generalize it, but they come from the position of take versus a give mentality. I went into that relationship just strictly giving of, hey, what is it that you need in your business that I can assist you with? I have people that'll reach out to me, let's say for a phone call to pick my brain or out for coffee. Well, guess what, Sterling, is I will pay for the coffee. Like, well, I'm going to have an hour, 2 hours of my time that I could be. So many people take the take mentality versus in your situation, you're like, hey, I'm here to serve and help you with whatever you need. And yeah, if I get some knowledge or whatever from that, but I'm more of 90% giving and maybe I'll get some take of the 10%.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've always heard, and like, I've seen it come true in so many ways outside of business too. It's like you get what you give. So like the more like kindness, the more, charity, all of that stuff that you give out, you get it back in spades. Like it just comes back to you. So like the more value you can give out, the more stuff that gives back to you. And it's not saying like, hey, go, start washing people's carpets to get real estate deals. But if you're just,
Hey, why not?
it's that mindset shift. It's like, just go provide value and like that stuff will come over time. So that's really good. Can you speak to like the relationship you had with your mentor and how that relationship came to be? Cause we're talking about this apprenticeship model. Well, how, in the first place, how do I find that person to be able to get this from?
So for myself, how it ended up working out was this quote that is, when the student is ready, the teacher shall arise. So at that CrossFit gym where I was bartering my way, because CrossFit is very expensive. So I was cleaning around the gym in exchange for my mentorship and to train there. And I was working out with this individual that ended up being my mentor. And we were very like-minded. I remember we would go across the street and go to the library, and we both listened to Earl Nightingale, which he is a similar to Tony Robbins, but actually pioneered the whole self-improvement. So we were very like-minded, and we were working out together, and also went on like random trips. This was over the course of about 5 to 6 months. And then it just happened to be one day that I asked him out to Subway, had no clue I was going to pay for it. And we just sat down and I asked him, his name was Will, how can I be of value to you in your business? And I saw he was kind of like, I don't have anything to pay you. I said, here's the kicker. You don't have to pay me anything. So I just happened to be in that right moment in time where this person was able to take me under their wing because they were older. On you, the person on the other end, is you may have to speak with multiple individuals in order to find one that's a fit. So that's what ended up lucking out for me. But the thing is, I put it out there in the universe that, hey, I would like to start working with someone who could really show me the ropes. And the thing is, my peripheral or my mind was like expanded to it. And then the opportunity, when it arises, I actually saw it. And I overheard a conversation about him talking about construction. And I said, well, this guy's in real estate. Let me see how I can start working for that person and being of value, versus if I didn't have my mind expanded to that, I probably wouldn't even have overheard that conversation.
Yeah, that's so good. It's a really good point, because, if you want something, how is anybody going to know how to help you if you're not out there, putting it out to the universe, talking about it, having those conversations. So that's really good. And a good point for the listeners. Like, if you have somebody that you're looking to get mentorship from, like, find a way, like, listen to what they need and then know what you want, and then go be that for them, like whatever they need. And this guy needed construction help. Hey, you got free labor. Let me, teach me real estate. I'm going to give you my time for free. So that's awesome. I wish somebody would do that to me right now. And I got like too many things and not enough time, as always. Like, so. Yeah. So now you got this mentor, you're grinding and you're getting equity in deals. You got into your first one. Where'd you go from there?
So from there is I actually ended up outgrowing that original mentorship, of which I started a company shortly after that, of someone that was very similar. Well, we were the same age. And this was when the whole crowdfunding legislation started opening up. And that was the partnership that I ended up scaling to 150 single families in a very short duration of time. And that individual that was around my we were around the same age, his name's Jacob, that we ended up complementing each other's weaknesses. And this is another thing about putting it out into the universe, is that I remember I was attending this seminar on learning about single families, and his mentor brought him on stage. And I don't know what it was that struck me, that I have to work with this guy. And as soon as he got off stage, he went to the restroom, and I followed him to the restroom and gave him the pitch. Hey, man, we should start working together. This is like my early 20s. We should start working together. And then he's like, yeah, here's my
That's a perfect lesson right there. Find the people you want to work with and corner them in the bathroom before they get to wash their hands so you can shake hands on it.
We maybe did a fist bump. Who knows?
There you go.
But
that's pre-COVID times right there. How to find a partner crack into the bathroom.
Yeah. And after that, he said, yeah, you can go ahead and come by the office, or where he was actually working. Didn't take me seriously. And then the next day I was in the office. Then the next day, and then we started doing deals together. And then we both formed our own company, and the rest was history from that standpoint. But it was really finding someone who complemented my weaknesses and then also was on the same alignment with where we wanted to go long term.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually something I wanted to dig into a little bit and ask about is finding the people that you need to be able to scale. It's something we've talked about a couple times on the show, but for you, I think it's a really good point because you were at like an early stage in your career. It sounds like when you found this person to be able to grow and scale. So what was it that you brought to the table? What was it that he brought to the table? And what made that kind of partnership sync up? So I think a lot of people are looking for that other person.
Yeah, so complete opposite of me. And I'm more of an extrovert. If everyone on here hasn't already got that sense, introvert in ways too, but more of an extrovert, especially in the business. And so I was more the face of the company, bringing on the investor relations side, the marketing, doing the acquisitions. So a lot of the front facing part of the company, he's more of an introvert. Doesn't enjoy going to the networking. He's more of, hey, Sterling, you can go out there and do all that. I'll just stay in the office and be in the spreadsheets, do the numbers, more behind the scenes operations. And because what I've experienced is there's so many moving parts with the business, a company, and then multiple hats. And if you have both, your partner has the same strengths as you, what about all these other gaps that you will end up having? So that's what I end up just learning from others that are further ahead than me, what has allowed them to be successful. And typically what you'll see is that the partner does a lot of the opposite of what they focus on or what their strengths are. And they find someone to plug in the hole of the weaknesses.
Yeah. And that's really good because you need both. You need both of those things. And it's unlikely if you're having this growing and scaling company that you can do everything yourself. So I like that, for the listeners listening to this, that notice what Sterling did was first of all, you're just aware of like what you're good at, right? Like the networking and the sales and all that kind of stuff. And then had the awareness to say, all right, this is what I need based on my skill set. So to find that right person, that's really good.
And I would say, Blake, that is key. What you just mentioned, the self-awareness, because some people don't have that awareness. And myself in the business side, being self-aware, but even outside of that, I'm always looking to become self-aware of even like limiting beliefs. Some people don't even realize that they have a limiting belief. Prime example is that I never realized the value of someone's time and I'll just tell a quick story for everyone that I went to a amusement park with I'm part of Big Brothers Big Sisters, but is that ended up paying a little bit more to get a fast pass to ride the rides. And it was about $25 per person. But in essence, it ended up paying off on the long run because we were buying time, because it got to a point where those rides were about 2 hours to 2.5 hours. And the longest we had to wait was 15 minutes. And that was before that, I would always try and be a penny pincher of things. And I never realized that, hey, this is what wealthy people do. And that's how they got there. They buy time.
I like that. I think I had that same realization when I was at Disneyland. I was like, telling my wife, I was like, we're never coming back without the fast pass again, because the lines there are outrageous, even during COVID. But man, that is what a great analogy. Like in business, buy the fast pass, like buy your time. Like think about all the
employees, team members, all that. Or I've seen owners on the single family side cut their own damn grass, Blake. Why is someone cutting their grass? That's $15, $20 an hour for a kid to do that. And you could focus that on a higher value activity.
Yeah, you could literally staple like a flyer on a telephone pole and find a neighborhood kid to mow your grass, and he's out there doing it.
If you enjoy mowing grass, by all means, and that's your relaxer, do that.
I love the smell. It just gets you going.
Exactly.
There's nothing like mowed grass.
And you wear the New Balances.
That's a good point. There's this local meetup in Panama City of all these older gentlemen and ladies who invest in real estate, and they're mostly all in single family or small multifamily, but they have decent sized portfolios up to, a respectable size portfolio for sure, but they all do like everything themselves, and then like to talk down on partnerships and everything. But I feel like they reach a limit because they literally can't do anything more because they run out of their time. So like, how do you get to that next level? How do you get past like, if level one financial independence is like meeting your expenses and the next is like you have enough money to do whatever. How do you get to, to like change your family's trajectory kind of wealth? And it's like scaling, building a business, not doing everything yourself, and buying the fast pass in life. So
exactly. And that was a huge unlock for me because someone who I studied, they always talked about rich people buy time. And for the longest time, it was not registering, but I had to keep hearing it. And then when I actually used that example, I was like, that's what that means.
Yeah. And it's such a mental roadblock. It really is. Like just in the last, I would say 3 months, I've started hiring my first VAs, like video editor. Since I started the podcast last couple months, that's all been edited and professionally done by others. Because I knew that if I was to do a podcast and try to get out there and try to provide value to others, there's no way I'd ever, first of all, probably wouldn't even have started to do it in the first place or be able to do it effectively if I did it myself. So I started to get there and like got over that mental roadblock. And I've started to see how it's paid off. So, I mean, I think for the people listening, it doesn't, necessarily require you to hire somebody right off the bat, but like find systems, find software. And I think that'd be a good transition. So like, what are some things you've used or some processes you've put in place in your own investing business to get back some of your time and to just increase your productivity? Because it seems like, you've had a lot of growth and people could have a good lesson here.
Yeah, I would say one experience share for everyone on here is just documenting what I do, creating SOPs, which are standard operating procedures. Don't want to make it too complicated, but just really when I do something or if we bring someone on our team who specializes in it, we have them document what they do. Because I'll give y'all a prime example in my earlier days of, let's use the example of raising capital. Each time we would go and we would have a deal available, and then we would reach out to our investors. We have this deal. We would take pictures of the property, put the marketing package. So we would do all the moving parts with that. Each and every time we went and raised money, Blake, we had to remember, what did we do last time? And then when we hired someone, the same thing. We didn't have anything in place. We had to keep constantly teaching that each and every time. But now is what allowed things to scale is having that foundation of just documenting what you do, such as hiring someone, onboarding, whether you're using a CRM, teaching people, is that just documenting what you do. That way you can plug someone in and don't constantly have to keep going all the way back from scratch.
Yeah. And that seems like, just sitting here listening to it, sounds like an easy, digestible thing to start doing. I remember, like buying my first couple of single family homes, it's like I was doing those same things every time. I was like, man, like every time I had to send a package to the lender for the refinance or whatever, because I do mostly BRRRRs, like every time sending in the package for refinance, I was like, all right, where's my 2019 tax return? Where's my 2018 tax return? And now it's like all in a perfect folder. Like I got the list of documents. It's literally a drag and drop. It takes like 15 seconds. And if I had a VA, it'd take them like 10 seconds because they do it better than me. But
yeah. And one platform we use, and I'm not affiliated, is just what we use to put all of our systems into, is one, you can use Google Drive. That is simple as it gets. And with that and really documenting everything. And then also we use Asana, which is free to use. I don't get any kickback for anyone to go sign up on that platform. That one, we put everything in that platform that way, because one, we had things in Drive, we had things over here, we had things over here. So we try and keep everything as centralized as possible. As you mentioned that, let's say I need my 2019 tax returns. Oh, I know they're here on this platform.
Yeah, that's so good. I've actually experimented with Asana in my Air Force job just to, track all the different contracts and the processes there as like a test for bringing it into kind of my real estate business. So I've heard like at least 3 people say that within the last week and a half or 2 weeks. So this is my testament to you and the listeners that I'm going to go put some stuff in Asana and start building out some SOPs, as you call them there, and some standard operating procedures, because that sounds like a big help. I need to be more systematized, but I've been lazy with it, to say the least. I'm just like,
and this is the key thing, Blake, is I am the very same way. I'm one of the person that I just want to go out there and just do it. I'm more of what you would call a technician and don't want to take the time to step back, document, but it's one of those things that you're taking one step back to take 2 to 3 steps forward. But it's so difficult, especially, and also some people are perfectionists. So they're like, well, I don't know it all 100%. But yeah, it's just one of those things that I've learned that you just got to do it.
Yeah, and I've been through like the process enough times now where it's like, by not putting those systems in up front, it seems like it's costing me time down the road. If I would have just taken a couple hours now, the 2-3 hours, I would have saved 10 hours over the last year of doing this same thing. So that's been like a frustrating point. And now it's like 10 hours later and I still got like the 2 to 3 hours instead of the process.
Yes.
Just bite the bullet. Just do
That's what it is. Yes.
It's time. It's like, you can only take so much. Just
do it.
Yeah. It's the straw that breaks the camel's back. But I can tell you, just like from my past, like I was a middle linebacker. So I'm like the mentality, I can just like run through it. I can just keep going. And like in the business, that's like, just keep buying properties. Just keep buying properties. I don't need to set up anything in the books, and then just leave like a wake behind a boat of madness. Like it just gets bigger.
Well, you think what is the lifespan or the career span of a linebacker by doing all that running through? So it's
CTE year 8 doesn't even make it. So yeah, really good point. Now that we got through some of that, I think that's really good stuff for the people. But wanted to talk about kind of where your portfolio is today. I know you started in single family homes, and you said you had 150 of them in the first couple of years.
All out of those now, though.
Okay, so have sold all those or moved on from them, and then multifamily now. So why that shift? And then what did that look like for you to go from single family to multifamily? Because I know there's a lot of people listening to this that I've interacted with that are kind of in that boat right now.
Yeah, I would say, why not multifamily? And so for
That's the book
us,
right there we were talking about.
Yeah, Multifamily Millions. There we go. And that, just took a step back and had about 130 or so in Indianapolis, and the remaining that were in Dayton, Ohio. OH, for those who are on here, and they'll know.
Like the echo of IO.
Yeah, exactly. You got onto it. Awesome. Yeah. And so with that is we just took a step back and said, this is very management intensive. And where could we shift to that'll allow us to scale more efficiently? Because at one point we were actually looking to be closer to about 1,000 single family homes. Luckily, we didn't go that route. And we just started looking at multifamily at that point, and we decided to stay in our niche of the older properties to where you could go in and put a significant amount of repairs into it and really push up those rents. And at first, we were looking at the mid-size or smaller multifamily between 20 to 50 units. And we were trying the traditional route, going through brokers, not having success with that. It was just things were heating up. This was about 2016, 2017. Decided, hey, why not go direct to the owner? And then that's how we ended up starting. And the first deal we did, driving for dollars. I picked up the phone, spoke directly to the owner, and then the rest, they happened to be motivated and then acquired it with seller financing. Yeah,
that is huge right there. And I want to get into the direct to seller side of things, especially on multifamily, because like everything in my experience and what I've heard from others, it's like a little bit different than marketing for single family homes. But before we get there, can you talk about kind of the carryover and the value add process, taking that from single family homes, creating the equity through the forced appreciation through the rehabs, and then doing that same process on the multifamily side? Because you look into getting to real estate and trying to create wealth, it really comes from the equity, right? The cash flow is good and get you out of your job and everything like that. But that equity is where you make like the big, the wealth jumps, and really why you get into real estate over time. So can you talk about that value add process and why that is, like why you guys focus on that?
Yeah. And especially why we focus on that, because you're able to force your appreciation. So there's one deal as of recent that we're actually selling, it's 80 units. We bought it for 3.35 million. This was several years ago, and we've put closer to about 400 to 500 into it. I'd have to check those numbers to be exact where we're at now. And now we have it under contract for $5 million. So that is the value add.
Over the million of equity right there.
Yeah. And one, we were able to get it we were able to get a good buy on the way in. And then also is through just appreciation through, people, the market that we're in, people are paying top dollar for properties. So that's what we found the experience on the value add component. But also when you're going in doing these heavy lifting of projects, there is a lot of risk that's involved with it. So it's more of a risk reward. And it comes down to your philosophy that you do have.
Yeah, that's good. I think for me anyway, I've never met anybody that said I got into real estate to be financially free and as kind of the operator and said, I want to start with A-class 4-cap properties. You know what I mean? It's just you kind of maybe work up to that point if you ever get there just to get the cash flow, but it's you want the value add properties to create the equity and have the big net worth impact to be able to use that equity to keep scaling. So that's really good. And then you're talking about 2016, 2017 timeframe. It's 4 or 5 years ago, you were seeing the market too hot. And nowadays you can't turn a corner without somebody saying, holy cow, the market's too hot. Real estate, you can't find any good deals. There's no supply. So can you speak to why you made that jump there to go direct to seller? And then I want to get into the specifics of targeting the sellers.
Yeah. So it was one of those things that we could wait on the sideline and keep hitting our heads with the broker side. And we still nurture those relationships. But there was one that was sent over recently, and the most we could have paid for it, which was top dollar for us, and a stretch was $7.5 million. This was 100 and just over 100 units in, I like to pronounce it Louisville, Kentucky, but it's actually Louisville or Louisville, however you want to pronounce it.
Louisville.
But yeah, exactly. And the broker mentioned he came back with us and said the whisper price is $12.5 million. So that just goes to show that it's so. In essence, is we just decided, well, why not build our own list? Because of course, if the broker sends you the deal, you don't go around the broker and then go direct. It's more of building your own list and do your own outreach. Because we decided to just take more control into our own hands versus just waiting on the sideline and having that be an excuse.
Yeah, and that's huge. And you had a background then that in the single family side, right? Because you doing some wholesaling early on, going direct to seller, sending the mailers and the cold calls and everything. So for you, was it an easy transition into targeting the multifamily owner compared to the single family owner? Because I hear it again, and it's the excuse. Maybe it's the inner weakness of me popping out. That's saying the owners of those two assets, the single family and the multifamily, are different. One's an investor, and the other one's you're targeting that had a divorce or is absentee owned or something like that. So what are you targeting basically for these sellers?
Yeah, so mom and pop owners. So very similar as you would get actually on the single family side. And we had to adapt. So from previous, didn't do any cold calls. So we did the direct mail. I remember we did bandit signs too. I remember getting up at 4, 5 o'clock with a PVC pipe with a stapler on the top of it, and then putting a bandit sign in it, and then putting it all the way on top of the telephone pole. So those were a couple channels that
so the code enforcement couldn't reach it, or what?
Yeah, so people couldn't reach it. Yeah, exactly. So that's why we put it all the way up there.
Yeah, that's so good. I can just see somebody at 4 a.m. the sun's not even up yet, scaling a pole to.
Yeah, exactly. Just stop the car on the side of the road, put it in there, put it all the way up, and then
that guy is hungry for deals. Okay.
Exactly. And so ended up taking a pivot once we started doing the multifamily side, and said, well, let's do cold call. And cold call just kind of just fell into our lap that, hey, everything's public record for everyone who's on here. And so ended up that very first deal, which was a 46 unit, picked the near south side of Indianapolis, started driving it, saw this property, this apartment that when you drove past it, the parking lot looked like an alligator's back. You'll Google alligator's back and you'll see what I'm referring to.
All over.
The sign was very bland and just very outdated. So ended up pulling the public record. It was owned an LLC, found out who owned that LLC and picked up the phone and just was very transparent, straight to the point that we're looking to buy their property. And this was their very last apartment that they actually were selling. And they were shifting from being an operator to a debt collector. And yeah, that's how simple as that initial conversation. It was a mom and pop operator, simple guy.
Man, that's really good for the people listening. So basically, you just start out driving for dollars, driving around Indianapolis, looking for, sounds like physically distressed multifamily assets, and then writing down the addresses, going to look them up in the probably the property appraiser's website or something like that. And then finding the LLC, then you got to go to like the Secretary of State website and then skip trace that. But all of that is not a very complicated process. You can find that on probably 1,600 different YouTube videos about how to find an owner. And then from there is just reaching out to them. So when you do that, how do you start that conversation? So, I mean, first of all, you're mailing them and then they call you, but if you're doing outbound marketing, like what are you picking up the phone to say, like, how can we give the listeners a little tip there?
Yeah. And one thing I want to mention for everyone, all that I just mentioned, had to figure it all out. Because one, I knew the end goal was to get that first multifamily property and what channel we're using. And then from there, just bridge the gap. All of that had to figure out how to do the skip tracing. I didn't know that when the property is owned in the LLC, that you could research the articles of organization to see who the owner is. And then from there, you could use something such as True People Search, White Pages, BIN Verified, all of these data providers to find their contact information. And then I just picked up my phone and then just simply just gave him a call. And it was, hey, I forget what his name was, but it was Sterling here. Did I catch you at a bad time? Many times they'll say, well, it depends on what this is regarding. Hey, just personally want to reach out. I just drove past Garfield Place Apartments. Wanted to personally reach out to see if you consider selling the property. And just very transparent like that. And this person, right from the get-go, they said, yes, I would be interested. But if you're not willing to put down $50,000 earnest money, do not waste your time. We don't need to continue this phone conversation. And this came from my sales. It's all sales, you guys. Even when you're buying, you're still selling. And then and this is outside of this, but even when it's the same thing with dating, for instance, you guys, that it's all sales. And even with my 8-year-old daughter I have to sell her on, let's say, a reasonable time to go to bed. So everything in life is sales. And it ended up coming down to that. I forgot what my train of thought was actually, Blake.
Like tracking him down, like talking to him. He's saying, put down 50,000 earnest money.
Yes.
It's all about sales.
Yes. And it simply just came down to, hey, no, not an issue that's there with getting the $50,000 earnest money. And then I went back into the fact finding, just asking them, why are they interested or why are they open to selling their property? And then that's where we were able to uncover that they were motivated. This was their last apartment they were selling. Second was it was 60% occupancy, all these different things. And then we were able to negotiate seller financing. Total purchase price $900,000. They carried back $700,000, and we only had to put down $200,000 to acquire it.
That's a good deal. So what? 48 units for $900,000?
46 units.
46 units for $900,000. I'll take that deal.
Yeah. Well, there was additional $500,000 that we had to put into it, but yeah, it was still a really good deal.
Yeah, that's good. And it all came from not putting your, I guess, destiny in the hands of a broker, like waiting on them to give you a good deal, but going out and getting after it. And that's for like, if you're listening right now, that's for like whatever strategy you're doing. If you're trying to find a house hack, if you're trying to find your next, duplex, or if you're trying to find, I don't know, like a storage facility, like that's anything. Like if you want it, there's other ways to find deals. Like if you're just looking for single family deals and don't always rely on the agent. So that's really good. So you found this person, you called them up, and then you found the motivation, which I've always found. I started out wholesaling as well with my partners. That was, going knocking on doors and everything. And it's always like, find the motivation, because that is what's going to spur the sell. Like if they're not motivated, they're never going to sell. Like if they're,
there's no problem to be solved.
That's what I would exactly. There's no problem to be solved. As a buyer, you're just looking for problems to solve, which I love. It's like always, it's putting deals together is like a puzzle piece. You got to put the right pieces in the right place. So that's really good. So this was the first multifamily property, and this was from cold calling. So did you guys continue to grow the portfolio in the same manner?
Yeah, all cold calls. Next deal after that, a 50 unit. Next deal after that, an 80 unit. Next one after that was another 80 unit. And then the most recent was 156 unit. All started with a cold call direct to the owner.
I love it. I love it. You might like this too. On my schedule for this week, it's this cold call because I got a list of multifamily owners. So like I'm an outgoing person like you, like I don't mind talking on the phone, but do you ever get that feeling like before you make the call, you're just looking at your phone, you're like, oh, all right, come on. We got a call.
Not as much because I've done.
You've done so many of them now?
Done so many and gotten kicked in the face. And I've done, also, this is what helps tremendously for those of you that decide to go the route of cold calling or something that you're uncomfortable with is I always do things. And we were talking off camera that when I start to feel comfortable, I do things out of my comfort zone. That way, things such as calling a complete stranger are easy. One, I'm petrified of heights. Like that is my absolute top fear. I've bungee jumped. I'm jumping off a 65-foot cliff. I've been in a helicopter, all these things to where, let's say, Blake, a owner will hang up on me one day. If I'm driving by their property, I will actually drop in on their office like a Navy SEAL dropping on a target. I didn't use that analogy.
I like that.
But because and this comes down to how committed are you to your dreams and your goals.
Man, what a great way to end it. Because I think that's so absolutely true. Like if you can sit around and complain about there being no deals all day long, but if you're not willing to go pick up the phone and call. And that's why I put that on my calendar this week. I was like, I actually got a fourplex under contract, which is not like the big multifamily stuff. That's the main focus. But I got that one just by sending out some mailers, like found that multifamily list. I was like, fourplex will be the lowest and most of them were bigger, but it's like, let's generate some leads. And now I got that one. All right. Got that one. I was like, all right, let's find the next one because these deals don't just come to you, right? You can't just sit in your living room and watch Netflix. So man, you're an awesome example of this, just going out and making it happen, having that big dream, that big why, just push you forward. So that's awesome.
And just taking action. That is the key. And there's some people that are more analytical that say, I need to have all these I's and dotted and crossed, but I've always just been a person that just goes out there and take action. I'm always looking at people who are further along than me and just understanding their way of thinking, the way they do things. And that's a prime example is that people who are on here, and even still to this day, I know I have limiting beliefs. And that's why I'm always studying people who are further along than me that why do they think that certain way? And I have this belief. I need to like rich people buying time. It goes back to that example as I heard it so many times. And then I started actually applying it. Oh, that's what that means. I outsourced my laundry. I outsourced my grocery shopping. When I moved, I hired people to move, help me move. And it was very affordable. That way I was able to focus on other higher value activities. And then the people that are not where I want to be, they say, oh, you're lazy for doing that. But it's, you give up.
Frees up so much other productivity. Now that's really good. I mean, this is a really good show because we're hitting not only like the specifics of like how to find deals, drive for dollars, like search people, like cold call them, but it's like everything else. The driving factors aren't even like those specific. It's like aren't the specifics. It's what gets you like moving and gets you motivated because without motivation, there's no action. So that's on the seller side. That's on your side. That's everything. So that's really good. One thing I did want to ask is, you started out in the single family realm, and I think I saw something that crowdfunding was involved there. But I wanted to ask, like, when you started getting these bigger deals, how are you raising money and funding them? Because I think that's also kind of, one of those limiting beliefs or hurdle for most people is getting the money to close these bigger deals.
Yeah. So when we first started out, we were doing friends and family. And then once we started to tap that out, that's when we were going to absolute strangers. And I was the marketing person. So I was the brand. I was the face. I was being on podcasts such as this. I was attending networking. I was doing quite a bit of collaborations with bigger pockets, leveraging social media, telling my story. So through all of these sources with putting yourself and your story out there, I was in essence the lead magnet to then drive it down to the company for people to sign up to view our deals. And then once we would have a deal, that was the marketing structure that we ended up having. So one, for those starting out, just starting with your friends and family, just keeping it simple. And then once you get tapped out from there, because everyone knows someone, there's someone that you know in your family, or either a friend or someone you've worked with that has money just sitting in a bank or 401k that they can roll into an IRA and then invest with. So there's so many, you just starting with your power base. And then from there, that's when you're able to go to strangers. That's the path that we took.
That's really good. So, and at this point you had, you and your partner running the business. So you were going out there generating leads, bringing back people into your world, bringing deals. And then you have somebody on the back end handling like everything. If you think about it, it's a funnel. They're down here taking everything that's coming in, and your job just to go out and, put eggs in the basket, basically.
Exactly.
I like that. Yeah. So I mean, that's another good point too. If you're that analytical person that says, I can't go raise capital, well, go find your Sterling, or go find your capital raiser that your goals align. And if you have that network and you're able to get a bunch of money, like go find that person that can help you. Maybe it's find deals. You find the money, they find the deals, and you guys combine that. So that's really good. I did want to dig into the crowdfunding. Are you guys still doing that, or is it mostly like Reg D, like 506B, 506C?
Reg D, just more of non-accredited and accredited investors, but we don't general solicit anything.
Okay, so maybe this was an older show that I had seen, though. I was digging in the crowdfunding, and I saw that, and you had been involved with that. How did that play? Because that's something I've been interested in. If you're not still doing it, we don't have to open up that can of worms, but it's something I've been interested in, thinking like, how do you bring more people in? Because in crowdfunding, you can have smaller investment amounts. Like, did you see that pay off, or was it kind of counterproductive maybe?
As we started to scale, it did get counterproductive, and we actually started to raise that limit to now our lowest we'll go is $25,000, where before it was closer to about $5,000, where we were able to have multiple individuals that were involved with that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good. And it's important to note too, right? If you're bringing in, say, 5 times the amount of investors at 5,000 compared to 25,000, the management and everything to handle all those people. Is that what you guys found? It was just the management?
Yeah, that. And then there's just more risk from more management. And then there's just more risk that you're having, because there's also a thing of sophistication. And I feel that if you're having people invest amounts of $1,000, $5,000, oftentimes that person's level that could be their last $1,000 or their $5,000. So in that case, more of when you're raising larger amounts of money, that's people who have the capacity to just passively invest that. And they're not so much, hey, this quarter you're behind by $100 that you said. So that's what you often get when you're dealing with the lower amounts with those individuals that have that side of things. So it's a mix, but more so with the lower amount, it's just more maintenance.
Okay, yeah, that's really good to know, because I had written an article about crowdfunding and had been looking into it as a way to bring in more people. But now that you say that, I mean, it kind of provides some context to like, yes, there's pros, but there's cons too. And if you're listening to this thinking the same thing, like, know what you want to do, where you want to go, and what like SEC regulation, like crowdfunding is Reg CF, it has its own exemption, and then Reg D, like Sterling does, has its own exemption too, and they have kind of separate rules. So just learning and educating about how to raise money is going to better equip you for when you're going out and doing it and talking to people when you actually have a deal. Which Sterling, I want to know what you think. Like, you should probably start raising money before you are ready to do deals so that you can actually close it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. That's the chicken and the egg approach that many say, well, do I find the deal and then the investors, or do I find the investors then the deal? I say both, and people don't want to hear that. But it is to form those relationships as soon as yesterday. Because yes, let's say you do get a good deal, and then the investors let's say in today's market, you only have a closing time frame of, let's say, 30 days due diligence. After the due diligence, you've got, let's say, 45 days to close. If now you have the deal and now you're starting to raise money and you don't have all the money, you have to have the money in the actual bank to close. And then you go to the seller and say, hey, could I extend the closing? And they say no. Then you've just put yourself in the bind. So it's good to start those relationships beforehand.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Even if you have all the money, like to get that wired in, sometimes it takes time. Like knowing your investors, where the money's coming from. If it's a retirement account, it's probably going to take extra time to clear.
Exactly.
So it's just like, give yourself time, start raising money up front. That's really good tip.
It's one of those things you're not able to show up to the closing and say, hey, we've got these retirement funds, these
like,
wires that are on the way.
Week, just trust it. It's coming.
Exactly.
It's coming. It's like the uncle that borrows money and says, no, I'll pay you back next week. I promise. No, that's good. So last question before we get into the Fortune 5, Sterling, just was curious about what are you focused on going forward? Like, what does the next phase of your business development look like?
I would say even outside of the business development is the self-development, is especially during the 2020 year, during the pandemic, all that is, I actually took more so a step back, still focus on the business, but further understand who is Sterling White. So that's the journey that I'm actually on today, is further uncovering that, the trials and tribulations that I've experienced as a child that shaped me to who I am today. And just uncovering is that, okay, why I am the way I am, and just optimizing that, just moving forward.
No, that's a super cool thought, because I've seen this sometimes too. It's like when you're just like always focused on the future and like goals and, attacking your goals basically. And it sounds like you're that kind of person. It's like you kind of sometimes forget that like retrospection and looking back and just kind of analyzing what's been done. And then you lift your head up and you're like, holy cow, like where am I now? Like what's the next step? So that's really good. I like that answer. Maybe if there's anybody in that like scenario or that point in their life, like what are you doing to do that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I would say reading books and being on YouTube, self-education, self-help books, and just going back, having conversations with my brother, and from that saying, okay, so the good and the bad, the ugly that we've experienced as a kid, and figuring out, being aware of how has that shaped me to who I am today, is why do I do things a certain way? And a lot of that stems from my childhood. So, it's a rabbit hole that you would say, and really just getting consultation from others who are going through this journey as well.
No, that's really good. I just curious about what that looked like for you. I think it could probably look a million different ways for a million different people, but that's pretty cool to think about, and just seeing where you're at now. But with that, let's transition to the
Fortune 5.
All right, Sterling, this is the Fortune 5, the 5 questions I ask every investor at the end of the show. So starting with number 1, what's the biggest thing that has contributed to your success?
Action, just taking action.
Man, simple and elegant. I like that. Cool. Number 2, what's been your biggest mistake so far that's turned into a learning lesson?
I would say always is, if the deal's too tight for you to not raise the money up front to take care of the repairs, then to move on to another deal.
Yeah, that's good. So can you break that out a little bit? Meaning, like, if you're buying a place for $500,000 and the repairs are $200,000, if you can't get the whole $700,000 or, the financeable portion of it, then just move on.
So on one deal in particular, is the numbers were too tight for us to raise the money from investors to take care of the repairs, because if we would have raised that additional amount, it would have got into their cash flow, so their returns would have been lower. So we decided, we'll just be able to take it out of cash flow for the repairs. Big no, you guys. And this was one mistake I heard from others, and they said, do not make this mistake, because I made it, and guess what? Went and did it anyway. So for everyone on here, please put a star next to this, please. It's like, where's the end, right? Like, if you don't have the money, you just keep trying to bleed the profits from the property. Like, where does that exactly
end?
And we had to actually end up eventually selling the property, and luckily we were at the height of the market, you guys, and we were able to get
and were you guys the sellers for $12 million when the market was 7.5? You're like, hey, It's all good.
So wait, say that one more time, Blake.
You said that seller, you were in Louisville, you were at 7.5 and they were at 12. It was actually reversed. I see what you did there. Okay.
Yeah.
Still got a profit. I swear that's like most sellers nowadays. They're like losing.
Yeah.
money.
But still in this case, we were able to just think if we were at the bottom of the market and we tried to exit out of that property, then right?
And then lose your investors'
exactly.
capital. So yeah, I haven't heard that one yet. That's a good one. Cool. All right. Number 3 here. What's your favorite book that you'd recommend to someone starting out?
Shoe Dog by Phil Knight.
Okay.
And Phil Knight is the founder of Nike, and it is a memoir. And this was the most wonderfully written book that I stayed up reading this. And I actually felt like I was there as he was explaining things. Great book, you guys. I love learning from people such as Phil Knight, the founder of Nike.
Yeah, I mean, think about like a super successful multimillionaire, maybe billionaire, and his philosophy on life. Good one. I think it's on my list, but I just wrote it down again to double check. I've heard that one a few times from other investors, so I'm gonna check that out. Cool. Number 4 here, Sterling. What do you do for fun outside of real estate? What gets you going other than bungee jumping and jumping off of stuff now?
I do enjoy working out and Spartan races. Yeah, I would say Spartan races because I'm always looking to just push myself, and I don't enjoy being complacent or comfortable. Some people they enjoy doing those types of things. That's not me. So yeah, Spartan races and just anything out of my comfort zone.
That's awesome. Keep pushing all around. I love that. Cool. Last question here. Where can people find out more about you and connect with you?
Yeah, so you can visit sonderinvestmentgroup.com. That is SONDER investmentgroup.com. And then also I'm on Instagram, Sterling White Official. One more time, that's Sterling White Official. You go ahead and slide into the DM. And that's a direct message for anyone who's on here with any questions. Happy to help.
Yep. I did find out, do not Google sterlingwhite.com because it is a funeral home. You got to go.
Yes, that is very interesting. I've tried to buy that from them, but that's hilarious.
This must be good right now because of COVID for them not to sell that domain. They're holding on to their profits. Well, Sterling, this has been an awesome show, man. Thanks for coming on tonight. Really appreciate it. This was an awesome show. We covered a lot of different topics. So thanks for coming and providing value.
For sure. Thanks, everyone. Trust you're able to enjoy.
All right. And we're out of here.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you like the show, if you found value in it, please go to iTunes and leave a rating and review. And if you want to check out more on your multifamily journey, go to multifamilyjourney.com where you can get free resources to start your journey and figure out your path. That's multifamilyjourney.com. But more importantly, go take action today towards your financial future. See you next time.